Okay, today we are going to be working on a simple transfer technique to create a symmetrical mask. And after that is drawn out and completed, we are going to paint with watercolors. Now, first thing you need to do is create a sketch of a mask from Nepal. Remember your 3 guidelines. You need to have a crown, so some type of ornate crown at the top. It needs to have a third eye, and it needs to have a fierce, scary, aggressive mouth. So, once you have sketched out a design that you like, we are going to transfer it to the big paper. So you're going to redraw what you did. However, we're only going to draw half of it. So I'm going to slide my paints out of the way first. All right, so first thing you're going to do is fold the paper in half. Now at school, we're going to be working on some good drawing paper, so this should work pretty easily. So you're going to fold it, open it up. Now, in looking at your mask, the sketch that you did, you're actually only going to draw half of it. So you're going to look at half of the mask. Now, if it helps you to fold the paper or maybe fold it away so that you can see it more clearly, that's up to you. I'm just going to do the real basic parts of my mask just to show you the technique. But you're going to want to make sure you do this to all of your masks, all the details, everything. So I'm just going to draw out the outline here. My little flames coming out. So I'm drawing right up to the fold. We want to make sure that you go close to the top, close to the bottom, and close to the edge. The bigger you make your mask, the better. And that's definitely going to help you with your painting, because if you have tiny, tiny spaces, it's going to be hard to get a brush in there. So make sure that you're spreading out. So things like an eye, you're only going to do on one side. Now, if it's something like the nose or the mouth, which, there's only one, in that case, you're going to draw half of it. So for like the nose, I would do this, so I'm drawing half of that. The mouth, same thing, half of it. So I'm just going to do the basics. I'm not going to draw everything because it's going to take a lot of time. Now, after you have drawn out all of your masks, then you're going to trace over it with a black crayon. Now, if you're working at home and you don't have this, you can just fold the paper, put it on a window and trace from there. That'll work. At school, we have limited space, so we're going to do this technique. Plus the black crayon, it's going to give a nice thick outline. And the benefit of that is when you paint watercolor, there is a wax in the crayons, and that wax resists water. So the paint, unless you put it on crazy thick, is not going to be able to sit on top of that crayon. So it gives a good barrier in between sections, so you can create a really great painting and not get your sections mixed up. So once you trace over everything, then you're going to fold the paper back in half. Now it really benefits you, if you can see here, you can kind of see through the paper. You want to rub it with a pair of scissors. You could use a ruler, anything hard. That you want to rub where you see those lines. Rubbing like in the empty spots is just going to be a waste of time, so don't do that. But you're going to rub. Now I like to rub in circular motions, in straight lines. You just want to be careful, especially when you're going towards the edges, that you're not going off and back, because then you're going to catch the paper and you might damage it, rip it, crumble it. But you rub anywhere where you see lines in the mask. And the darker you make your lines with the crayon, the better. as that means there's more to rub off onto the other side. So once you do that, you're gonna open it up. Now, if there are parts that you can't see, let's see, maybe like here, I kind of missed that spot. So fold it, remember where that spot is, rub it again, open it, and see, there it goes. Now, once all of your mask is transferred, then you're gonna take your crayon and go back and redraw all those lines. And this is gonna give us perfect symmetry. And symmetry is one great principle of design. It's called balance. And symmetry is just a lot more appealing to look at. I think there have been studies done and people respond naturally, just more favorably to symmetry. You can see in a lot of celebrities, the ones with the most symmetrical, even faces tend to be considered the most attractive. So symmetry is a good thing. Now, once you have it all drawn out, we are going to use watercolor paints to do this. Now, if you're at home and don't have watercolor paints, you can color it any way you like. Crayon, marker, colored pencil, whatever you have available. I would suggest second choice after watercolor paint would be colored pencil, because you can do blending, which I'm going to show you how to do here. Now, to do watercolor painting, let me make sure everything is in frame here. So at school, you can get set up like this with a watercolor paint tray, paper towel, water bowl. I would get a couple brushes, of various sizes. When you're painting big open spaces, a bigger brush. When you're doing smaller spots, you want a more smaller brush so you can get detail. Now, to do a basic painting with watercolor, take your brush, get your watercolor paint wet, and go to the spot you're gonna paint and paint within that section. Now, we are going to maintain the symmetry of our mask with the color, so whatever you're painting on this side, you're gonna paint it exactly the same on this side. So go in and do it the same way. Now, once you finish, you clean your brush, make sure all the red's off before you switch into another color. And color-wise, you can use any of the colors in the tray. Just make sure that you are maintaining symmetry. Now, if you want to do color blending, you have to choose two colors that are next to each other, excluding brown and black. Those aren't gonna blend. But these are in the paint tray arranged in color wheel order, so any colors that are next to each other will blend. And the exception is purple and red, because since this is a line and not a circle, red and purple are next to each other on the color wheel, so those will blend. So to blend two colors, you're gonna go like this. So I'm gonna do red to show that. So first you start with color number 1, which is gonna be my red. And then you clean your brush, move to color number 2, which I'll do orange. Now you're going to leave a bit of space in between, and the best technique is to just use a wet brush, and while those colors are still wet, go in and blend back and forth, and then you can see I created red to red-orange into orange. Now, because I blended red to orange here, I'm gonna do the same thing over here, red to orange. And that is how you blend two colors with watercolor paint. Now, if you're at home, colored pencil will be really good for this, because you can do that really easily with colored pencil too. Crayon marker, you're not gonna get much blending. You are required to do some color blending on your mask. I would suggest to do it, especially in the beginning when you're starting in smaller spaces, is if you try and do a real big section, you may paint your first color, and then switch to your second. And by the time you paint all that in, this is gonna be dry and it's gonna be really hard to blend. Once that paint is dry on the paper, it's not gonna blend well for you. So make sure you're doing that. Another technique to do if you wanted to do one color fading blending, which I'll show you down here. So you start with your color, put it on, and then I clean it off my brush. So I'm only using water. And if you ever need to pick paint off, if you know, you dry your brush off and then go back, that'll pull some of the pigment off. And that's how you can go if you want to do light to dark or dark to light. You can do color blending that way too. So these are the techniques that you're going to use to paint your watercolor mask from Nepal.